the root of the problem of why the music business is fucked.
Yeah.
And part of our slogan for a long time with STEM was let's unfuck the business, is because royalty accounting is more complicated than it needs to be, because the simple answer is that people don't know what they own and when they're going to get paid.
Do you think that when the record executive is putting together these terms and these deals, that they understand what they're putting in front of the artist?
No, in most cases they don't. We learned this the unfortunate way through building tone. We didn't talk much about tone. So the genesis of STEM wasn't actually to build, my idea wasn't like I need to build a better distribution company. I saw the opening for that, but that wasn't the problem I wanted to solve. The problem I wanted to solve was that when artists were choosing to be independent, because again, remember, this is 2012 when I had the idea, 15 when we started it. And in 2012, YouTube and SoundCloud were the platforms for breaking artists. There were more YouTube stars breaking the charts by releasing music to their fans and making video content around it than like any other path, right? It was just the fastest growing way. And what I found so interesting was that there were so many of these YouTube star artists who were getting signed by very sophisticated managers that were working with huge pop stars. And they were able to use their relationships to develop great albums and great records with those independent YouTube star artists, right? Think about the days of like Troye Sivan and like a bunch of other artists, right? This is the days of them breaking on YouTube, and now they're big pop stars. You wouldn't even remember they were YouTube stars. Even Justin Bieber was a YouTube star.
Yeah.
And the problem with them that I witnessed time and time over again is the manager always felt like after the record was done, because they were in the recording studio with big name songwriters and producers, that the only way to get the records out was to sign with a major label, because otherwise the songwriters and producers weren't going to clear the rights, because how were they going to get paid? Right? And so that just like was insane to me. I was like, wait, but these kids, and they were kids at the time, they were not even 18, most of them, had huge YouTube followings, controlled the distribution to their audience because they were direct contact with their fans. And they needed to give up 80% of the ownership and their rights and their royalties to someone else just to take care of an admin problem. Like truly just something that an app at that point I thought should do. Like, why wasn't there an app that you could just put in all the splits and would pay everyone what they were owed if everyone was working independently? Because in that world, it's not like you're getting a huge check up front. It's not like you're spending that much money on marketing. Everyone's kind of just contributing what they got and putting in a lot of elbow grease. And I was like, an app like that doesn't exist. Like that should, right? That was the original idea for STEM. It was like an app that could split the earnings across multiple people, know the rules of how people got paid, and made it really simple and frictionless for independent artists to collaborate with known artists. And to me, it wasn't just music. What about YouTube videos, right? Because the best way for YouTube stars to keep growing their audience was by collaborating with other big YouTube stars with other big channels. But you're not going to make two different videos. I mean, some of them did. Really, why not just make one video and show the earnings? Put it on the channel that monetizes the best and split the earnings. You're both in it.
Right.
So it was sort of the original idea. And as we started building it, we realized that we had both a legal compliance issue and also a go-to-market problem. On the legal compliance side, we needed to become a money transmitting business, which this is, for those of you who are watching that are in tech, this is before the days of like Stripe having a solution for this.
Square,
Well, Square existed, but Square wasn't in this business. Square was still like a app that your fast food trucks or your
piece of hardware
you can like swipe a credit card to accept mobile payments. Not even mobile. Well, it's kind of mobile, I guess. And so they're just like wasn't the infrastructure to do payments the way that there is today. And so our options were spend millions of dollars to go and get our own banking money transmitting licenses globally, or become a partner with a bank, which would have cost us, I think at the time it was like a $20,000 a month retainer.
Wow. just
to get the rights to distribute the money. And then technically we would have had to build the rails too. And I was like, okay, well, that's a lot of friction. And our lawyer at the time was like, well, there's an interesting sort of roundabout way here, because you're in the music business. If you become the distributor of the music, then you're actually the licensor. And so the money comes to you, and then you have a pass through to the other people, and you don't need to be a money transmitter to do that. And I was like, oh, great. He's like, but then you have to go get the deals with all the DSPs. You have to get deals with Spotify and Apple and YouTube and all the different platforms. And I was like, oh, cool, I could do that. I know the people there.
Wow.
Because I was a digital media agent at UTA. I was like the only digital person that was there to talk to all the new tech platforms and streaming services on behalf of Hollywood.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a little break. Because if you're listening and thinking, fuck, I could really use some guidance right now, and you're serious about building your career in the music industry, I'm now offering private strategy sessions. These are fully personalized, just you and me tackling whatever you need in your career. With over 16 years of experience working with artists, managers, and brands, I can help you map out your next moves. Now, whether that's structuring your team, scaling your brand, navigating the industry, even figuring out what steps to take, whether to go to a distributor or to a record label and figuring out what are the best deal points, I can help you with your career with where you're at. You can now book a one-on-one with me through my Calendly, and you can find the link in the description. Now let's get back to the pod.
There were like 4 of us at the time, so we knew everyone that was coming out with these platforms. So it was easy. I was like, oh, cool, I'll call this person, like done. I'll get the deals done. And I did in like 60 days. And so we became a distribution company.
No shit.
The other problem was that at the time we were talking to DistroKid and TuneCore and even Fuga. And we were like, hey, let us build this on top of your distribution pipes. And all of them were like, we're not giving you the data. We're not giving you the earnings reports. We're not giving you the money. You're a brand new startup.
Yes.
And so we couldn't find a distributor that was willing to partner with us to build a product. And so we're like, you know what? We're going to do it.
This is out of necessity.
Yeah, it was out of necessity.
Yeah.
And I was like, if we're going to do distribution, we're going to do it my way, which is I don't want to take more than we deserve. And I want to make sure that we're not throwing a bunch of shit on a wall and hoping something works. And most importantly, I want to be able to have every client pick up the phone and call someone and talk to someone at the company. Because the thing I got really frustrated by when I was at UTA working with big name stars, trying to get music out there, is that you couldn't even schedule a release. You couldn't pick up the phone and call someone at TuneCore and DistroKid and be like, hey, help me collaborate. This is my first time being independent or my first time putting out a song direct to my fans. I'm just rolling off a major. What do I need to know? What do I need to do? None of the services were offering that at the time. So I was like, if we're going to do it, we're going to be that partner.
Right.
We're going to be the place.
This is 2012 or so, right?
This is 2015.
Oh, okay. 2015.
2016 closer to, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was sort of the idea. Is like, let's take that like concierge type of approach to distribution, because I came out of a talent agency where like you live or die by answering your phone for your client.
Correct.
And so I was like, let's just do that. And that was sort of the beginning of it.
Wow. Well, and this is now Tone.
So thank you. I forgot how we got into the point of the conversation.
Well, the point of it we got into it is because the record executives don't necessarily know the deals that they're doing.
Thank you. Long-winded story to get to that, but we'll get there.
No worries, but it's great context.
So we got into the distribution business. We got really lucky with some big name artists working with us early on because we were a great place and we were cool and young and picked up the phone. That was simply all that we did.
Can you say some of the names that you're working with?
It's public. It's out there, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, I named a bunch of them just now. People know it's publicly for working with other big artists. You can Google that. I don't like talking about it. Like, it's a long list.
Okay.
But we learned a lot in that just doing the basic splits wasn't enough, because most established artists had really complicated deals with their songwriters and producers, and honestly with their labels, where there were costs that needed to recoup. There were hidden fees that needed to be accounted for if you were a label working with another distributor. There were just all of these nuances to how money flowed and how money paid back. And basic splits wasn't enough. And so over the course of the years of working really on STEM, we realized that if we wanted to solve the problem of people getting paid more accurately, more fairly, not even fairly, more accurately, more clearly, and more consistently, we needed a whole different product and a whole different system. And we had iterated through advancing splits to then incorporate recoupment rules. And we built a whole regroup rule feature, and we built all these different tools. And then we decided it needs to be its own product, and it needs to be available to people that are not just using STEM for distribution. Because the reality is artists are autonomous. They're not loyal. They're not working with one party for every project for their existence. They're jumping around distributors and labels and collaborating here and collaborating there. It needs to be its own product that can work across all these different companies, across all these distribution companies, across all these different delivery services, across all these different labels. Because you're an artist, you need to pick the best partner for every project. That's just the best way to run your business.
That's a fact.
You should not be held down to one place, because they're all different, right? And they have different strengths at different times at different points. And so we decided in 2022 to build a whole separate company, a whole separate product, taking everything that we had learned from STEM, and we created its own brand, which became Tone, and that's what Tone is. And so Tone is a platform that not only does royalty accounting, right? That's like the problem that we solve, and that's the output of what we do, but it really is a way to run your business if you're a record label, because you manage all your contracts in there, you manage all your expenses and all of your sales and revenue. And it's those three things coming together that generate your royalty statements for all the other people that you need to pay. And in being a platform that collects that data information, one of the most interesting learnings for us was that most record labels, when they were onboarding to Tone and inputting the contracts related to the releases so that we could generate the statements for their artists or songwriters or producers, did not fully understand what the contract said. And this wasn't a fluke. So out of the first 20-something labels, at least 3, I want to say maybe as many as 5, completely inputted the information incorrectly. Their interpretation of what the contract says was not, in fact, what the contract said.
From the majors?
No, this is even the deals they're doing with their artists, trying to be really artist friendly. The labels had every intention to be artist friendly.
Yes.
And had every intention to do really favorable, really flexible deals.
And some of these labels that you're talking about here are essentially labels that are a subsidiary or doing distribution through the majors.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, are doing it through delivery services.
All kinds. Just
all kinds.
All kinds.
Or maybe a combination of all the above across different parts of their catalog, right? Because they might start independent for some releases, upstream to others. It's just across the board.
Do you feel like this is why this industry is so chaotic and there's so much misinformation out there?
I think that the root of the problem of why the music business is fucked.
Yeah.
And part of our slogan for a long time with STEM was let's unfuck the business, is because royalty accounting is more complicated than it needs to be, because the simple answer is that people don't know what they own and when they're going to get paid. That's the reason why the music business is fucked. And everything that is un-artist friendly is because they're exploiting those two things. The fact that people don't know what they own and when they're going to get paid.
How do they exploit that?
They offer incredibly ludicrous terms to moments in time when people are uncertain about if they have the available funds to do what they want to do. That's why we built a contract simulator as part of the process within Tone. So when you're a label onboarding onto Tone, you're inputting your contract information in there in all the different terms, then you can actually simulate the cash flows without running a royalty report. You can say, hey, if this project has $1 million of expenses or $100,000 of expenses, how does the money flow? And if it generates, let's say, just to simplify it.
Yeah.
We spent $150,000 on this project and it's generated $300,000. Show me how the cash flow runs the cash flows between all the different participants. How much does the label make back? How much does the artist, the songwriter, the producer, based on all of these different rules that are in the contract. And it shows you that. And then you can say, oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Or actually, no, it's not. And we need to renegotiate the language, or we have a mismatch between what the language says and what we talked about with the client.
Wow.
And the unfortunate thing we've experienced is that the label and the client have the same idea of what they've agreed to, but the language does not reflect that. And I'm not to say it's a lawyer's fault. I just think it's just a miscommunication and they don't have the right tools to be looking at the math the same way. There wasn't a pro forma, perhaps, that was presented to make sure everyone was aligned.
That's so fascinating.
And people are moving fast, right? So they're not doing the diligence. And I can understand that because the amount of deal flow and transactions has had a Cambrian explosion over the last couple of years.
Yes.
There is more content being created than ever before. There are more deals being negotiated. There are more transactions happening on a daily basis.
Bidding wars, et cetera, et cetera.
Everything. It's just more complicated and it's becoming unmanageable and it's becoming really hard to keep track of.